Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast. And today we're joined by a man who is a legend within the world of raw foods, of raw veganism, of the fruitarian diet, of detoxification, health, and healing. And I'm talking about Dr. Robert Morse, who many of you may know from his many YouTube videos, who have many millions of views. And he has as far as I'm aware, a fairly large base of fans and followers and people that he's worked with over the years. And he has been promoting this information of using a fruit diet for health and healing for, I believe, many decades, based in Florida, and hope to learn more about his life, his work, his thoughts today. So, Dr. Robert Morse, is there anything else you would like to say about yourself to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Well, it's kind of been a long journey for me. I've been 50 years now in the raw food industry, so to speak. Like I said, I was very interested in fruitarianism because I came through the natural hygienic, which is, salads and vegetables and fruits and that sort of thing, but not a real high accent on the fruit. Fasting back then was with like carrot juice and stuff like that. So you had very minimal results in terms of, say, pulling tumors out of you and things like this. And so as I grew into that, I realized that we were frugivores. There were some hygienists that felt the same way. Dr. Carrington was one of them. And so then here recently, Anthony Kaufman asked me to interview me, and I'm talking to him. I thought he was going to interview me on the COVID because he's the big vaccine guy. And it wasn't. It was on fruitarianism. And so I enjoyed that. And I decided to do a V-book on the frugivore. The human is a frugivore. And so I'm going back 10 million years, and I'm showing you teeth, your internal GI tract. I'm going to show you that the Homo sapien is truly a frugivore and that he's never adapted to an omnivorish lifestyle.
I'd love to speak with you more about that today, if we get around to it. I hope we do, because I've got a lot of thoughts and questions on that. But and I agree with you on that. But would it be okay to ask you about what was your kind of background, your upbringing, where are you from originally?
Yeah.
Even maybe your genetics, what where your parents from, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm from Indiana, the state of Indiana. We were raised farming basically, and so my dad had built a house on an island down here in Florida, and so I came down here when I graduated after, and I had 2 years at the Air Force, and so then after that I came down here, and I've been down here ever since. And so I built custom homes. And so I had a friend I met on the beach, and I asked him to help. I'm a carpenter, and I asked him to help me be a carpenter. And he was bringing every day, he was bringing a lunchbox full of fruit, full of vegetables, and I'm probably eating McDonald's. I don't know, who knows, right? And so I'm looking at that, I'm going, damn, those look so good. I've always thought apples and things look so good, right? So it looked so good. I said, what are you eating that way for? And he threw out one of the natural hygienic books, Sheldon's fasting book, or one of them, right? And so I'm going, man, this all just makes sense. And so I started, but I always thought man was a frugivore. And then I left and went into the woods and became a hermit and a fruitarian. I fasted on oranges for basically 2 to 3 years.
So that's interesting. But when you were growing up, you didn't have any kind of alternative diet or anything like that?
No, we were milk, meat, slaughtered our animals, that sort of thing.
So you were you were brought up on a farm then?
We own farms,
right?
And we had at our house, at the main house, we had horses. But we owned the farms and we worked the farms, but we didn't live on them. We hired someone to live on the farms. But all my uncles, everybody in my family had farms and drank milk. And I was so stopped up that I needed nose drops and I couldn't poop. I was so constipated. I remember my mom chasing me around with an enema bottle.
Yeah, right.
So, and then I had migraines constantly. No one thought about dairy products.
And were you growing any fruit at all, any vegetables, anything like that?
Oh yeah, we had we had our tomato fields, patches, and we had watermelons, and we had all of that. So yeah, I had a good cross between meat and then vegetables, absolutely. But then we also ate Chef Boyardee out of the grocery store.
And you talked about having animals there and slaughtering and stuff. Did that all seem normal to you growing up? The idea of killing animals, eating them, things like that?
Yeah, well, if you don't know any better and
Sure.
you're raised up into that thing, yeah, it depends your spiritual awareness. And inside of me, of course, I couldn't get with that. I've been to a lot of slaughterhouses, and I'm very, say, psychic sensitive. So I couldn't stay in there. The pain from all the cows, they all knew, and it was just I couldn't handle the that consciousness of the animals knowing what was going on there. I've been back into a lot of different life forms just to see what it's like, and so I have a lot of compassion for all of life. But
Wow.
at the same time, you got to do what you got to do on a planet like this. And remember, this is creation. Creation, these are all experiences. So think of creation as the divine playing hide and go seek with itself.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That's
All
exactly.
life is just experiences. Nothing's reality. You come here by yourself, you live a life, and then you leave by yourself. Where are you going and who are you? Where'd you come from? Those are the questions I like.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Um, so that what was fascinating to me there is it, your jump to getting into this kind of lifestyle was just this random situation of a guy that you were working with
Mhm.
bringing out that book and having that food there.
Mhm.
Why do you think that caught your attention so much when for many people they would have just thought this guy's crazy?
You know what? It all is, everyone is a different level of spirituality. And for me, I've had the experiences to where I realize why I'm here. And I've been shown all of this and what I'm to do here. And so that's what I'm doing. And when it's time, I'm out. I mean, this is just creation. You're at the lowest world of matter there is. It's a very chemical world. That's why I'm always teaching chemistry. Learn it and play with it and, have fun with it, get your body well. Okay. But then you've got other worlds that you're playing with simultaneously. You have your astral or emotional body with you. You have your mind with you, which is not separate than your emotions. So you have other bodies that you're playing with simultaneously with the physical body. And when you learn that and you learn how to pull back from each one of them, then you start becoming more in what they call the all or the present moment or the now, that sort of thing. And of course, all things exist in the present.
Were you talking about spirituality and so on? Were you brought up maybe Christian or something like that? Or
Christian, I was Boy Scout, so I had a religious merit badge. My parents made me go to church every Sunday. And my problem was I had this sensational urge to just roar laughing. I would bite my tongue, I bite my finger, but when I would listen to the preacher, I just instinctively said, "What?" I'd already been a God man traveling in the God world. And so this guy was saying stuff and controlling his people like every other minister almost. And that's like, you've got to get away from others controlling your point of view. You've got to get your own point of view. And how do you do that? And that's what we teach. How do you have your own experiences with the divine?
did you have spiritual experiences growing up from a young age?
No, not really. Not that I remember. Mostly, I had this need to go into the unknown to find out what it was. So I would take hikes deep into the woods where no one was there. I had to find out what truth was. I don't know. That was just a driving force in my young life.
Wow, wow. So when did all that awakening start to happen? Was that after you got into the kind of fruit eating
Yeah,
journey?
because I started changing my attention. Remember, your attention is where your experiences are. Wherever you put your attention, that's what you're going to experience. What if you don't put your attention on anything? What do you experience? And so that's in a nutshell what happens when you withdraw your attention. Buddha just coined the word detachment, but don't care. Just let life move, and you'll find there's a hand moving your world for you. You don't have to think it. You don't have to create more. Just live out what you've created, and you will find your new world coming to you. It's amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to know, like, you had this book, Shelton, and so on. What was around that time? I mean, that must have been such an unusual thing, and it still is now. But you had these books. Was Herbert Shelton and people were they active at the time that you were reading those books? Were they doing things? Were there events? Were there
So
newsletters,
get
things
this.
like that?
So I'm out living in my van in campgrounds, state parks, and things like this. And I was walking one night and I come across this campfire, and there's some men and women sitting around. They said, "Come on over." So I came over and sat down. Somehow this discussion got to out of body experiences. And there was a police detective sitting right beside me. And he says, "You want to know how to have out of body travels?" I said, "Of course." He goes, "Well, here, Rosicrucians, join the Rosicrucians." So I joined the Rosicrucians, and they're an old group about how to get out of your body, and they have all these different techniques of how you get out of your body. And so then with the Eckankar, I became a very avid out of body traveler. I taught it for years and years and years, and then a voice came to me one day when I was out traveling. I don't even know where I was, and it said, "Okay, who's the traveler?" It's okay to travel to Mexico or China and all these places, but when you're out of body, they're extremely nirvanic. They're so full of light and colors, and you can't even believe the ecstasy that you can have in some of these worlds. But then, who's the traveler? Who's the viewer? Who's the experiencer of the experiences? And that's the reality. So you have to find out who you are. And how do you find out your true self? Who's that view looking through those eyeballs of yours?
So were you literally at that point in your life, and I imagine this is when you were quite a young man, you were living in a van essentially. You went out
Yeah,
traveling,
yeah,
adventuring around, or you were moving around for work, or how did that work?
yeah. I lived in a Volkswagen van. I didn't have even a bathroom. I had a little sink, but I didn't cook anything. Of course, I only ate. I got off of. I was kind of eating a lot of alfalfa sprouts, and then I weaned off of them and just ate navel oranges. I found a very spiritual source of navel oranges, and it was like unreal. So I got to the point where there was no separation of day, night, time. You know,
We
when you live in the now, there is no time anymore, you know.
so that was part of a bit of a spiritual quest. That
Yeah, and that's also where I found out about the kidney filtration because I'd have to pee in a jar. There's no bathroom in my van. I had to pee in a jar at night, right? And I'd sit it up on the little sink there, and I get up in the morning, and I'd see all this sediment in the bottom of the jar, and I'm going, "Oh man, I'm detoxing!" Yeah, I didn't even think that the medical establishment didn't believe in anything like that. I didn't know those sort of things. I
wow.
just said, "Man, I'm cleaning out. Look at all this stuff in this jar, man." And every night I would look at that, and every morning, you know. And so when I became a naturopathic physician and I became a biochemist and I started doing a lot of blood work and urinalysis, and all these urinalyses were coming back clear. I'm going, why would your urine be clear? Your elimination port. Why would your urine be clear for? And when it is cloudy, the medical doctors think you have an infection. These are the guys that don't know their you know what from your you know what. And so they don't know have a clue how your body works. And so I discovered how the lymphatic system is tied to your kidneys and your skin. And so when I introduced that in practice, I had calls from anatomy, physiology professors all around the world. And they said, you know, you just answered how the body gets rid of metabolic acids.
Wow,
From
interesting.
that point on, I started curing everything I, was involved in.
Can I ask more about the out of body traveling situation?
Yeah.
So this was you're traveling. I'm not sure at that point you're already starting to eat fruit, but you're
Oh, I was.
you come across the guys at the campground, um, and I've heard of the Rosicrucians. I've never heard of a group that you could join or anything. And with those experiences of body traveling and so on, I mean, does that completely change your your perspective on life going through that kind of thing?
I don't know. I can't even answer that. I took it all as one big growth. I'm trying to wake up to consciousness, right? That's the goal, is to be conscious. And I had read also J. Krishnamurti, and J. Krishnamurti is really good at getting you how to stop thinking. And the first book I read of his was Think on These Things. And I immediately fell right into that and knew exactly what he was talking about, and started learning how to stop thinking and putting my mind out where I control it, not it controlling my attention. And that's the problem. People let their thoughts control their attention. One thought after another thought after another thought. And our schools promote that. Our colleges promote that. And the problem is you have to promote time where you're aware and not thinking, so you can see life more complete than your limited thoughts. And then the emotions are the similar.
And how did your family feel about you going off on this adventure, living in your van, all this kind of stuff? Were they happy? Were they worried about you?
Well, I was raised by my grandfather, grandmother, and mom, and I had a sister. So my grandfather is what, two generations back? So when I came out of the woods, I had a hefty beard. I had long hair down my back. And my dad thought I went and became a communist, is what he called me, and kicked me out of the house. So I hitchhiked up there from Florida, it's Indiana. And these are old farm people. These are old salt of the earth people. And when they see something like that back then, now this is the 70s, 60s and 70s. Kent State wasn't that far, away where we shot our own people. So at that time period of extreme unawareness, and let's say the Lawrence Welk versus the Beatles, if you're a musician.
I see. And so you were kind of did you go to Florida searching for sunshine and fruit?
Yeah, but Florida's I've always been a subtropic or a tropic lover.
Sure.
I don't get along with snow, ice. I'm a true Homo sapien body. I gotta have some warm, baby.
Brilliant.
I gotta have fruit, because without fruit, I'm not a vegetable eater. I have a hard time eating salads anymore. I try once in a while, but I have a hard time. So I'll do more cucumbers and more fruit type vegetables than
Sure.
salads and all chaos to
Yeah,
get in your
yeah.
teeth. And I just why waste your time? Our GI tract's nothing like a herbivore.
How did you find the transition to this kind of fruitarian diet when it happened? And was it a process you went through? Did you follow any particular teachings? Did you have to figure it out yourself?
Okay, so let me be a little more expansive on that. I wasn't going for fruitarianism.
Mm-hmm.
I was going for breatharianism. I was going to live off the prana, the life force. Why eat? I can breathe in hydrogen, oxygen, carbon. I can breathe in your carbohydrates, your proteins. I'm breathing them in, right? So why would I need to eat them if my consciousness is at an energetic level that supports my human body? So I was going there. I know there was a guy called Johnny Love Wisdom back then. I don't know. I think he went nuts trying to do it. But I got to the fruitarian stage and I couldn't stay in my body. I couldn't handle the level of energy that you get from this. I couldn't stay grounded. I would lay my head down and I'm out in some world somewhere doing something. And so I had to ground myself and back up a little bit.
So is there with the out of body traveling, is there not some techniques to help you stay in your body? Is there not some teachings on that, or is it just out of control? Or
okay, so you got about 80 to 100 trillion cells in your body. That's also little states of consciousness. And my body used to just cramp after traveling, because it couldn't handle the level of energy that I was involved in. And it took a while. That's why I did finally have to ground it a little more, because I thought I was going to fry my cells up.
And I know I've heard this story from you before a little bit about this this situation where you found an orchard and you were living on the oranges for a long time. And how did you find that? Was that just pure luck, or was that someone you met? Or
I've always loved oranges. This is Florida, and I've always loved oranges, and navel oranges are your sweet ones. And I heard about this organic grove, and it was right beside this huge grove down here. And I pulled in there, and this old Southern Baptist man looked at me and goes, all right. And so he introduced me to his oranges. His navel oranges were as big as grapefruits in stores. Sweet as honey. You take one and you want to take another one, then you want to take another one. And then he's an out-of-body traveler, and he's an old man, Southern Baptist, and you couldn't believe our conversations. I mean, to tell you, it's like divine. Everything is, I mean, you can't. And one year, that whole year, I had navel oranges. Navel oranges down here only come about November till about, if you can push them till February. But I had them that one year, there was a bumper crop.
Wow.
That one year.
Wow.
And that was the year I was taking them down every day. I could do 15 oranges about this big at one setting, and I could have 5, 6 settings a day.
But that's when people that are into fruit, you generally don't have that experience with fruit. You enjoy eating it and everything, but the experience you're talking about is a rare experience for most people when they have that fruit that's so good that you can't stop eating it, and it's over and and it's like you've not even eaten one yet.
Well, the difference is like a peach. Look at a peach you buy in the store, right? Hard as a rock. You put it in the window. It's not going to ripen. It's going to ferment. So no matter what you do, you're going to taste a fermented peach. Pick a ripe peach off a tree and watch it pop all over your face. That's the difference, man. Oh, or an organic apple ripe off the tree, a Red Delicious ripe on a tree. We had apples in Indiana where I was raised, and it's
yeah. No, I love that, and that's what we need more of. We need more of that quality fruit in the world.
Do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree, and it's we that's why I've got a V book coming out on man as a frugivore, and it's a very in-depth book, the most in-depth book you're ever going to find on man as a frugivore.
Oh yeah, we need that.
I've got Patty as an A&P professor. She's going to do the A&P section of that one, although I've almost already had it done. That's coming out in about 3 weeks maybe, but it's a V book. It's a video book at first, and it's a very extensive book. We have a lot of A&P to show you. We go back 10 million years. As I said, look at the teeth, look at the guts. Anthropology backs us all the way with this, and you can't deny it. You can say, well, I can't eat that way, or I like to eat like an omnivore, dog, hogs, bears, and chickens, or whatever. But in reality, the Homo sapien body is a frugivore body, no matter how you decide to eat. And what's interesting is that when you change that and you start eating fruits and berries, let me add berries in here, fruits and berries, and you can add melons, your whole health turns around. Your kidneys start filtering, your tumors come out, all the inflammation goes away, calcium resettles into your tissues, into your bones and connective tissue, and everything starts strengthening, and you start becoming one vital puppy.
You mentioned the breatharian concept, and is that from Edward Carrington? Was that from his writings? You got that? Or was it?
Remember, I've been around 50 years. So my thing on breatharian, I think it was Johnny Love Wisdom way back when I heard him talking about that. And I thought, well, and then some yogas talk about, the breath. And so I thought, you know what, why not? Why not? You're breathing in the chemistry. It's just a little finer, but that's okay because humans like finer level chemistry. We're not grunt level metabolizers. We're not big like elephants and horses and stuff to have the greens and stuff. We are primates that rip things apart.
Yeah, but I guess we do breathe in obviously carbon dioxide and air and nitrogen and all these things, but the argument would probably be we don't have a generator inside us to turn that into something like sugar, amino acids, lipids,
there can be
structures.
Yeah, there can be arguments.
It's easier to just eat it, but
well, what if you could get your physical form to the point where you didn't break down? There was no agglomulation anywhere, no acids anywhere. So your three energy flows, blood, nerve, and lymph, were unobstructed totally. There's a tribe in New Guinea that takes off on a 20, and they're a raw food tribe. They take off on a 26-mile run. Their heart respirations, their blood pressures, everything is the same as when they left.
Mm, mm.
I mean, when you remove the obstructions to the flow of energy in your body, you cannot believe the level that a Homo sapien can achieve. We are so under par as a Homo sapien. And look at the cell. I'm into tissues and cells, right? So I mean, the human cell has never been so degraded, and it doesn't have to be. You can turn that around and start regenerating genetic weaknesses, genetic memories in these cells, and then regenerate tissues like livers, hearts, brain, nerve.
Well, let's turn to your story because I want to hear the next part, which is how did you go from this guy that's traveling around in a van, you are growing your beard, you're out in the woods, you're living on oranges, you're going on an adventure, and to becoming what you are today. But we're going back to school, getting qualifications, starting all this kind of path. How did that transition happen? At what point did you sort of start to?
I was running out of money, but I got bored, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to give back something. I thought, well, what could I do? And so I thought about opening up a health food store. And back then they were a little underground, but I asked my dad, I said, can you loan me some money? I'll open up a health food store. And so I did. I opened up a little health food store, then I opened up a bigger one. And then, and so it was during all of that, then I opened up my practice and I sold my health food stores, opened up my practice, and then went on from there. But it wasn't all peaches and cream. There's times I had to close my practice. I was living in my practice. I was living in vans. Not everybody knew what health and naturopathy and what raw foods were like back in 1970. I mean,
That's amazing.
even the health food stores were kind of underground. And so to mention a raw food or say anything a fruitarian, you would freak out probably 99% of the population back in 1970.
Yeah,
You couldn't get a fruitarian book anywhere. The natural hygienic was the only coursework for raw books. And then spiritual books, where could you get them? Out of body travel books? You couldn't get stuff like that. You had to dig and find your way into some of these crevices where you could get them.
Was there anything for it? Was there any support? You found these books randomly, but was there any resources you could use? Was there any gatherings, events, people around?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
I'm a loner. I lived in the woods alone so long that I have a hard time. I've had a mate for about 43 years, but we have our own bedrooms. I can't, when you live alone in that intensity, because that state, the God state, is the most intense state of aloneness you will ever experience. Not loneliness, aloneness, because there's only the one that exists. And when you start getting rid of the fluff, the duality, you're hitting deep into that alone state of who that reality really is. And so then you realize the compassion of creation. Have a buddy, have a friend, have a lover, have whatever. But when you get away from creation, that alone exists. And you and everyone, you, me, everyone becomes the one again. And we lose our separateness. And it's an intense state, and it keeps going. And it's just intense. That's all.
Were your health food stores in Florida?
Yeah, I had them in Florida. I had them on Anna Maria Island, and I had them in Bradenton.
What part? Is that South Florida, or where's that?
That's near Sarasota, Florida, right next door.
Is it,
Tampa? It's between Tampa and Fort Myers.
Okay.
It's on the west coast here.
Right. So it's not down in the Keys or anything like that.
Too far down.
Right.
No, this is about halfway down the state.
Right.
Tampa Bay, and then I'm about 100 miles south of that, probably.
Okay. Yeah. And so, where did you go to school and things like that, or are you self-taught?
I went to Brant. I picked a naturopathic school because of Brant Ridge, because it had all the topics I wanted. Yeah. And so I have my own school now, and so I'm creating a doctorate degree in traditional naturopathy. and I've got a chiropractor. He's going to start doing a small coursework on at-home chiropractics and kinesiology. Of course, I've got a full bore. This is an A&P course, full professional A&P courses. I'm going to have a little botany. Of course, we have essential oils, flower essences, herbology, all the things that a naturopath needs to know. But our school is working with our students. We don't fail anybody. We want you to become the best you can be. And so these subjects are fun. When you get into colors and energies and you get into your fruit levels and you get into getting rid of all this heaviness and this acid and all these things, you just free yourself.
Yeah.
You free your body, you free your mind, you free your emotions, and you become more in control of your bodies.
So how were you in that time? Once you started your practice and everything, how did you start getting the message out there to people in a world where, as you're saying, people didn't really understand what you were doing, maybe?
The average person has no idea how many hours I have put in. I put on lectures in every town in Florida I could get to. I'd go into a town. I would find a meeting room, generally in a bank or a library. I would rent the room. I would then go to the newspaper, get all the free meeting minders I could get. Then I would write a display ad. Then I would make posters, and then I would go down another day and I'd poster all around. And then I would show up for that night and see if anybody would come and listen to me talk about out-of-body travel. And I did that for years and years. And then, of course, Eckankar has groups. And so I was a priest in that group. And just all, I've put most of my life at working at this.
Right. I said that. I always assumed that you'd been a speaker because you're obviously such a good communicator, but you were actually promoting the out-of-body travel more at that point.
Oh yeah, more than health even.
But that must have been quite controversial at that time.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've had chicken legs at our center's door and stuff like that. And, I've done it in Texas too. I've been teaching out-of-body travels in Texas towns where you have Catholic Mexicans. And it's amazing how many people show up without their physical bodies, but show up to hear you.
Right.
And you keep yourself open, and you'll see probably even around you, you've got other beings coming around listening to you. Oh yeah. Just be more aware of your surroundings. I always have people in this room visiting. Always.
Can you see that? Do you have the ability?
Oh yeah. Or I can sense it. One of the two.
Wow. No, that's amazing. What you're saying there about you would turn up to a town, you said get a meeting minder in the paper. Is that what you called it?
Oh yeah, you can get meeting minders are free. Anything
Really?
Free. I didn't think that I could make it in the health field because there just wasn't. I couldn't get enough people.
Yeah.
And then I met a chiropractor that just graduated from Palmer. He was an out-of-body traveler. So we came together and taught health classes together. He taught kinesiology and chiropractics, and I taught regeneration of tissue with botanicals. And we did that for about 3 or 4 years. And that was about 2 or 3 nights a week. And then my other nights a week, I was teaching out-of-body travel.
Wow. And you went around Florida rather than staying in one place?
Well, yeah, I've taught all around Florida, Indiana, and Texas.
I'm just curious, why didn't you just try and stay in one location? Was it better to travel around, or was it?
Well, it's funny. I was broke and no money, and I had been trained by the phone company to climb a telephone pole and to install a telephone in a house. So there was a hurricane in Texas, Corpus Christi, and they needed people really bad, and I had a truck. And so I loaded up with tools and stuff and went over there. They paid good money, all the work I could use. I'm going, yeah, I need some money. So I went over there. And of course, I'm not going to just sit there. I'm going to teach people wherever I'm at how to get out of the body or how to eat right. Come on, man. You can't just sit there and not,
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. I love that. That even though you weren't even doing it as a job, you were just doing it as the passion.
Fun stuff, though. Well, because it's fun to see someone light up and learn how to travel out of their bodies, because it just helps the consciousness of life.
I'd love to. Do you have any stories from that time? Like, how many people would show up? Would it just be a few? Did you ever have a full room?
I got one was interesting. This was in a little town called Sinton, Texas, and I showed up with a little crew. And we got into the room and no one was in the room physically. And everybody said, well, we'll just pack up and go. I said, no, you don't. This room is so full of people, I can't hardly breathe. And it was just full of astral entities all over. Half the town probably showed up in that talk that didn't want to see their physical body present, but had that curiosity. Then I did another one time, and this Mexican guy came up to me and he said, you know, every night I go out of my body. He said, every night I go out of my body into a lion's body. He said, I can feel my paws touch the wet ground. I can feel the need for the kill. And I'm looking at it. I said, well, you probably reincarnated through that life, obviously, and you hung on to it till you like it. I said, I can help you get rid of that if you want to go on from that. And he says, why? I said, okay, you want to keep it, you're going to keep it.
Yeah.
But all kinds of strange things like that, One lady came up to me one day. I was just starting to talk. She said, my husband's out in the car. Can he come in? He used to travel out of body when he was young, but his parents used to yell at him. So he hasn't done it in a while. And he must have come in. I said, what are you talking about? Bring your bro in. We had a lot of unusual things like that,
I love the thing you're saying there about the feeling of there being other spiritual entities in the room that you're teaching. That's a great thing, and it's nice for people to know who are trying to put on a talk and no one shows up. It's good to.
You got to have eyes to see. So when you stop focusing so much outwardly, same thing with listening. Everybody listens outwardly. Have you ever listened inwardly?
Right.
So I'll give you a challenge. I brought a couple of beings with me. See if you can find them. See if you can see them. So that's going to be the challenge to your people. When I'm doing a workshop or whatever, see if you can see my little friends.
Interesting.
Yeah, because there's a serious thing going on here, bro. And I came and brought a lot of people, not people, they were souls, but I saw some of them going off of different parts of this physical world. So there's a big thing happening here. And I'm meeting some of them that I came down with. So it's amazing that what's going on here on the spiritual side, because you see the negative forces gaining momentum. The reptilian community is trying to take over, and it's unbelievable. And when I say reptilian, people just freak out. Well, get used to it. They're here, and they've been here for a long time. Many people are seeing them now more and more and more. Jesse Ventura did a show on them. So you just got to be aware and be strong in yourself, because you have shapeshifters, you have all kinds of things going on at this level. And the strong survive, the weak are consumed.
Do you believe there's such a thing as dark entities or demonic or that kind of thing?
Well, these are just, you have two forces. You have positive and negative forces, but they're the opposite sides of the same coin. Duality is simply, you have to have two forces to have form. And without two forces, you can't have form. Therefore, you can't have creation. You can't have me and you talking and having some fun here. We can't do that because everything's one again.
Right.
So for the illusion of us sitting here having some fun talking about what we already know inside of ourselves.
I just love the stories about you doing these random talks in the 70s, and just that's
fun stuff.
Amazing. So when did you kind of focus on the naturopathic then and build a practice and things like that? When did that come about?
I went back and forth, and then I spent about 6 years in cardiac work in a hospital, nuclear medicine and things. And this Korean immunologist, son of a gun, talked me into starting up again. And he said, I've got a building, and maybe me and you can go into partners, because he knew holistic medicine. Even though he was a medical doctor, top immunologist in town, he knew. So I said, oh, I don't know. I don't know if the world is ready for this. He said, no, you can do it. I said, okay. He drove me over. We looked at his place. I said, okay. Funny thing, he backed out of it, and I went ahead and opened my business up, and then I took off from there. Because I'd been with a lot of nurses and stuff, and I started healing a lot of people around the town, and the newspaper started putting articles on us, and got me in trouble a lot, but I took a kid and got rid of his stomach cancer in 56 days, and they put it on the front page of the newspaper. It's like, oh no.
What what were you, so you were working in the hospital, so you were doing you said you
Cardiac work.
cardiac work.
Uh-huh.
What does that mean?
Okay, so cardiac work includes emergency room codes throughout the hospitals, EEGs, EKGs, stress tests. I had to have IV therapy. I had to run codes, so you had to learn intubation. You had to have the ACLS training, of course, and then of course you're always starting IVs. You were working all in cardiac work, and then you always had friggin' codes, on the floors or in an ER. So you had to show up and
what does
help save
codes
someone
mean?
like
Sorry,
that.
what does codes mean?
Code means when you go down with cardiac arrest. In other words, you're pretty much ready to take off, and we're going to pull you back. Take off and have fun, baby.
So right, so my understanding is in terms of in this country anyway, the most reason for people going to what we call accident emergency, ER, I think you call it, is chest pains. Why the most people go into ER
Is
uh,
why?
for chest pains,
Oh, chest pain. Yeah,
chest pain, which I guess is
it's up
cardiac
on the
arrest.
list.
And so you were dealing with that kind of that's a particular position you had, but I'm guessing it wasn't as a naturopath, but as a some other qualification you had.
No, I just wanted to learn cardiac. I wanted to learn the heart. I wanted to learn how to save people. I just wanted to learn all I could about that. And it gave me a chance to see what hospitals were like inside, and it just gave me a chance to see that world
Yeah.
uh, at, at, at at its activity there. And
What
it,
what what's that job called? Is that
I was just like a tech or just like
right.
yeah, I wasn't anything of any importance.
But you were helping with yeah. So I think we call them yeah. I understand what you're talking.
Well, I
So
was the main, I was the only cardiac guy. So anytime there was a code blue, and this was St. Joseph Hospital. This is a Catholic hospital. So, I was the one jumping on you. But I pulled three people out of cardiac arrest, two in that hospital with my thumb in their left foot, and one in a restaurant called Cracker Barrel down here. So you don't have to get on and crack the sternum or anything. You can start the heart back neurologically.
oh
There's
really?
so many, oh yeah, there's so many fun techniques that the emergency room needs to learn. Instead of cracking someone's chest and, hopping, you can go right into that nervous system that controls the heart, turn it back on.
How how successful is it in hospitals when someone when their heart stops beating? How often do they actually get it to start again?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. If you've been out in the field and the paramedics have worked on you over 20 minutes, the chances of you getting back to the ER and us saving you is nil, next to none.
Right.
So, I mean, we've worked hours on people before, especially the children. But if now they have new restrictions after so many minutes, if we can't pull you out of it, you're considered pronounced dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what was your overall experience of working in the hospital?
Cold, ego, um, not warm and healing,
Right.
none of that. And the food was so bad, we had to all go to another hospital across the street to eat at them because they had a little buffet. How bad that was. And I worked at three hospitals. I worked 40-hour shifts. So I worked at three hospitals cardiac work. And one was a Loma Linda. So we at least had halfway decent vegetables. They weren't
You worked in Loma Linda?
Loma Linda Hospital was down here, one of them.
Oh, right, okay.
And,
Is that
uh,
17?
and, yeah, and Loma Linda hospitals are vegetarian hospitals, although they will serve meat if you gotta. And
Well,
I'm
that's
going, why do you even do that for? Nobody's
it.
gotta have a piece of dead animal.
So I was confused there because I thought Loma Linda was a place in California where the
It
Seventh-day
is.
Adventists. Oh, it
It
is.
is.
Well, right, I
They
see.
have hospitals throughout the country that are
Okay.
Loma Linda. Used to, there was Loma Linda hospitals.
Ah, right, okay. And you worked in one of those. That's cool.
Same with the same philosophies. and the lunchrooms and
Yeah.
pretty much diet thinking and everything else Loma Linda has.
So when you started to focus on the naturopathic, and your practice, were you giving talks then still? Were you
Oh, yeah.
going out there and doing that kind of same
Always,
thing? Yeah.
always. I've never not. Just because it's by nature. And when you know and you have full awareness that you were given a job to do by something much bigger than you are, you generally do it without question.
And did you always feel
Yeah,
that
we've all had our butts kicked by the
yeah.
divine, and it's like, yeah, you got to follow your flow, man.
It's I remember a couple of years ago I was involved in an event in Dublin, Ireland. So we went over and we're giving a talk, and there was Dr. Graham was giving a talk, and just the feeling after it was fantastic. I thought this is what we need to do more. This is what I want to do more. Like this was so alive. Is that the feeling you had?
Exactly. You know, the more you give, the more you get. And if you want to get more divine and you want to open yourself up, give it. If you hold it, you're going to bottleneck it and you're going nowhere. But if you give what you get, that's why I'm an empath. That's why we give and help anybody and everybody, because I'm not holding on to anything. But you're free that way. You're free, and you get a higher awareness out of it, and you're a channel where you can see what the divine is doing and things like that. And it's a better place to be. I'll say that way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and you're right on with that. As you help others and open up the joy and all of that, helping others to find their joy. So much suffering in the Homo sapien race, it's not even funny. I can't even believe how much suffering. And they still haven't learned all the pathy and who they really are. So it's like, oh,
Amazing, amazing. And with your with the practice and everything, and I'm interested. How did your diet evolve over the years? Because I know you were eating the oranges for a while, fruitarian and stuff like that. Um, how how has it changed? Is it how what does it look like over the years?
good question. Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty. There's times that I revisited meat. There's times that I wouldn't touch nothing. There's times that I could do just fruit and no vegetables. The time that I had salads, up and down, because my mate is not a raw foodist. And so that presents a lot of problems. But I couldn't make the choice of not being with her because she didn't eat raw foods. That wouldn't be fair of me.
Sure, sure,
So
sure.
I had to live with that. And so I've been up and down. I've been up and
Yeah.
down. There's sometimes I just came off a big mango run. So there's times I'll take off and go on a run of some sort. And there's other times you'll see me go have some cooked vegetables at Cracker Barrel. I mean, I don't know. I run by stress too, and things are going wacko. I had to go ground somewhere.
Do you think that's a difficulty in your experience with people trying to live this as a lifestyle and keep it consistent?
Yeah. I mean, there are some out there that have really, they're just so amazing that they were able to stay fruitarian for 5 years. I mean, there was a lady in our group, Hildy, who, I don't know, she was like almost 15, 12, 13 years fruitarian, but I couldn't get her off of it, and I needed to. I mean, when you're getting into these high levels of energy and nutrition and sugars, uh, it's almost, you get almost addicted to it at a certain level. But as you start hydrating deep into those tissues of your body, you've got stored stuff in your body that's going to come out that could compromise. So people got into dry fasting and stuff like that. And I'm okay with a 24, 36-hour dry fast. But when you're telling me you're going to dry fast for 2 weeks, I'm not for that. And that's
So
what
this is a
God
great.
did.
This is a very important and powerful conversation, right? Because I actually interviewed Hildy, I think maybe a month or a few weeks before she passed, and some people said it was the last interview that she did. And she was mentioning going deeper. She wasn't talking about exactly what she was doing, but she was mentioning going deeper. She did mention the dry fasting. And when she passed a few days before, she was posting things about what she was sharing. And I was curious because I've seen this dry fasting be involved, I feel, in a few deaths, and not necessarily that it was the only thing going on, but it's been part of the
Yeah,
mix of things. Do you believe that was part of what happened with her?
yeah, totally. I never received a call from her husband, and we were all good friends. I've known Hildy. I always use that old saying. I met Hildy in bed. Uh, she was bedridden when I first met her, and we got her out. And look, you saw her. So she came miles, but again, she just kept digging and digging and digging, and she would come to my life class. And one life class, I had to stop the class and take her to the hospital. Uh, it, it you got to be smart. You know, when you're digging in, and she, I don't know if you've talked about this, but she considered herself pharmaceutical queen. If there was a new drug on the market, she would try it. She did Botox, she did all kinds of things. And
Sure.
of course, with the systemic acidosis, RA, and all this, she had the sulfur, she had all of this going on. So you have to be, it'll all happen for you. You just got to go on and on and on. And you can't make your physical body your main point of interest, or that your spirituality will kind of reach a kind of a stalemate there. Yeah, it's a physical body. You get it healthy. Let the energy flow through you. Don't get anal about health too much,
Yeah.
because then that's where your attention is. Then what about your spirituality and all the other things in life? But then some people need to have that much attention on it.
Yeah.
There are some people with tumors hanging off of them that you wouldn't believe. And yes, you got to be focused right down that railroad track. So you got different
Yeah.
differences.
I think it's important for people to hear your message on this because it seems like what you've said there is dry fasting, maybe for a day, maybe 36 hours,
That's it.
no longer than that, really.
Well, here's another thing. All right, so let's talk about this because we're talking about also fasting and water fasting and things like this. Remember, the average person is agglomerated, meaning the average person is not filtering with their kidneys. They're full of acidosis. They're full of mucus. They're full of inflammation, swellings. Many people have tumors in them, cysts, things like this, right? Their joints are falling apart. Their tissues are falling apart with the connective tissues and stuff like this. So I don't know where I was going with that other than to say that you have to be metered in your focus in your body. You can't just rip, like you say, 2 and 3 weeks dry fasting and all this stuff. You're highly acidic. You're highly dehydrated. You can't drink a glass of water and hydrate. You're talking about months to hydrate interstitially, all these miles, because uh, you can see this, but that's your lymphatic system in your finger.
Right,
So look at all that lymphatic system has to be cleaned in just the finger.
right.
So all through the body, you have tremendous amount of acidosis, especially someone like Hildy. So you're hydrating. When you hydrate your human body, all this agglomeration starts breaking up and heading for the doors. What's your doors? Well, your nose, your sinus, your mouth, your ears, under your arms, your groin, under your breast. But basically, your kidneys and skin should be your eliminative organs, not these other holes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that people hear your voice on that because I think
Balance.
a lot of people have went down the dry fasting path.
Yeah.
I feel like um here's the thing that I've thought about it is when I've listened to people's experiences of it, they do it for however many days. They're trying to do it for longer and longer and longer. When they drink water again, they say, I feel amazing. And I say, well, that's not a good reason to do it though. Like of course you feel it's like you're taking yourself close to death and then giving your body what it needs and then you feel great, but that's not a great reason. I don't
Some,
know.
some people are at the point they have to super focus. Their
Right.
their their death of their physical form is at hand. Others, though, be more balanced. I remember there was this good friend of ours who fell, his parachute didn't open. And he's been to our classes and stuff. And so when I heard about him, he wasn't walking or nothing, of course. And so I got him up walking, totally normal human again. And he came to one of our classes and he showed me pictures. He did a 12-day dry fast. I said, holy crap, I've never, ever recommended that.
Right.
24, 36, you're done, man. You're too acidic. I don't even recommend water fasting at first. Get your kidneys filtering, get your bowel walls cleaned up, get yourself halfway hydrated, and then water fast, then dry fast. But don't do it right off because you could get your butt kicked big time. People
Wow.
have died fasting like that.
No,
And
absolutely.
you can't do that. You got to be smart at that.
No, I'm really glad to have heard you say that, Dr. Morse. That's fantastic to hear, and hopefully we won't have any stories like that again.
Oh, I don't, there's no reason for any of that. Take your time and water fast. I get people are scared, when you wake up with tumors, and some ladies have serious tumors on their breasts and stuff. I mean, real serious stuff. And so, yeah, play with that, especially if you know your death is at hand. Yeah, play a little with that. The problem is when you get to that point, you're highly acidic, you're highly emaciated, you're highly malabsorbed, and highly dehydrated. There's no room to say, I'm going to just not eat. You want electricity coming into you. You want
Right.
electrical. And what's the most electrical and easy to digest? Oh, fruits and berries. Oh my God. And the brain converts glucose to fructose anyway. So forget that process. You're going right to the fructose.
It's interesting that you always say fruits, berries, and melons. Why do you say the three different things?
Because fruits and berries are the natural foods of man. And berries are so powerful with flavonoids, but they also, if you look at most berries, they're your endocrinology. Most berries turn on your endocrine glands. Your saw palmetto berries, not only prostate, but thyroid. You start looking at all these chaste tree, pituitary, but also thyroid. You start to see all these berries in nature that have a powerful influence on the endocrinology of the body. So, I mean, I love that. And then, of course, melons are a no brainer. Uh, the fiber, all of that's nothing like a plant fiber. So those are really the easiest to digest, the easiest to give you their energy, more fructose driven. Then you start stepping down into your vegetables. You're in a lot lower kingdom, and your larger animals generally eat your vegetables. Like your horses on the prairie. You see a big wild stallion, he's got that way just eating the grass. And of course, we had horses. I was telling you, and we used alfalfa because my sister trained them for barrel racing, and uh, we wanted our horses muscular, but then you got a big animal.
Sure, sure.
So there's
Well,
differences in the species, and man just has to settle in that you're a frugivore if you're a Homo sapien, but you can eat omnivorish. Obviously, man is, but look at his health problems.
so the way that you communicate and come across, um, the way you're saying some of the things about healing is almost like anything can be healed. Is that how you feel? And or are there things you feel that can't be healed just with a fruit diet, or what's your
I'll
top?
put it this way: I've never had a case of anything out there that I couldn't heal. Have I had people I couldn't heal? Absolutely. People can't do it, can't stay with it, things like that. I've had a couple that were way too advanced. I mean, there are some that when they wake up to this, they're advanced. And back in the day, medical doctors used to radiate women's breasts even after they cut them off. And of course, what's under the breast? The lungs. And then the same lymph bed feeds that. So when you remove too many lymph nodes or you radiate the chest wall, you're radiating your lungs. And I've had young mothers with 4 and 5 babies die on me because they couldn't breathe anymore because they slaughtered their lungs. And it's just the way I'm passionate about the medical profession learning their place in life and where they stand and where they don't stand.
The reason I'm asking is I've seen or at least I've heard of or been aware of, especially women with breast cancer that have tried to heal that with fruitarian or raw vegan or fasting, and it seems like it hasn't worked for them, and it's maybe not been the best choice for them in that situation. And
Uh,
I don't know if there's other things like that, but I don't know the whole story there. But
well,
do you
let's talk
feel
about it.
okay?
Let's talk about it because that is a big deal for a woman. There's a thing called biopsies, and a medical doctor just feels like they have to go in and take a biopsy out of a tumor. And in particularly when it comes to a breast, they'll do a biopsy and then they'll leave a metal chip in there. And the biopsy is simply to take, because there's only one medical doctor who can tell you you have cancer, and that's a pathologist. So they need to have a cell, and they take a bunch of cells to a pathologist, and he determines if it's atypical or whatever, right? So it's a cancer cell. What does a cancer cell mean? You're not born with cancer. Cancer cell means you have a normal cell that's been chewed up, and now it's went through the atypical phase, and now you're into the mutated stage. You can't bring it back much. That's all that is. And so they're fixated on cells instead of fixating on what damaged the cell in the first place. So they're idiots and extreme killers when it comes to cancer. I'll tell you, nobody has the right to give chemotherapy to any human on the planet. Chemotherapy, and I got a new chart coming out here. I've got it done right here. But chemotherapy is 1 million times more acidic than your blood. So think about this. Chemotherapy from 1.5 to 2 pH, which is most chemotherapies, is 1 million to 500,000 times more acidic, even though your blood's alkaline. If you're looking at the pH scales, more acidic than blood. Who would ever allow, because you kill cells at 3 pH, they're giving you half as much, and that's the logarithm. So you're 15 times hotter than 3 pH. So you're down around almost 1 million times hotter of an acid than what your blood would be considered. Even from neutral, you're about 500, 700,000. Who in their right mind would ever allow this, and who in their right mind would ever allow themselves to have this level of acid? If I threw a 1.5, which is close to muriatic acid, if I threw that in your face, what would you think? You would have to be sued, killed for attempted murder. Your eyes would cave in. It would just take the skin off of you. But they put that in your vascular system. That's what, and they don't do it in your brachial anymore. They do it in the subclavian. And then so many people die of aortic aneurysms, but you can't see that.
But when a tumor is advanced like that, is there no time where removing it is not the best?
All right, so the only cancer people we lose is when the tumors are gigantic. They've overcome the whole breast, and they've affected the lungs underneath them. Other than that, tumors are not difficult to get out of the breast. You have to learn the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is your sewer system, right? Well, your sewer system has septic tanks, and these septic tanks are called lymph nodes. And what you can't see is the condition of your lymph node feeding that tissue or allowing that tissue to drain itself through it. And that's part of the problems. Your lymph nodes will swell before you notice a tumor in your breast or wherever, because that's the journey to the kidneys or to the skin is through the lymph nodes, because you can't pee 3 pH out. All metabolic acids are around 3. You can't pee 3 pH or you'll be on your knees. So you have bacteria in your lymph nodes that bring that 3 metabolic acids from the cells up to about 6, and then you can pee them out.
But isn't that the problem though with cancer, where in the normal function of the body, of course, when something goes bad, when something's wrong, the immune system comes in to deal with it. And at least from the medical standpoint, I believe the idea is that cancer is a unique situation where the cells have gone wrong, they went cancerous, and the immune system is not dealing with it, is not recognizing it as a problem. So therefore, even if the person has a strong immune system, the immune system isn't acted on the cancer, therefore it continues to grow. So do you have a response to that idea? Do you not
big time. Oh, big time. Because when you learn the truth of that, then you think this is 5th grader stuff. Because first of all, you've got tissues everywhere. Yeah, and tissues are all made of cells. So what basically you have is 100 trillion cells that are structure function, and you have 2 fluids that take care of them. So basically all your body is a bunch of cells, spaces around them, and 2 fluids of blood and lymph in them. What is the blood? It's a kitchen, right? There's no eliminative organs on the kitchen, and the spleen is how the kitchen cleans itself. All right, what's that other fluid that dominates? Interstitial fluid is dominated with this fluid that makes up 75 to 80% of this fluid. Blood is only 15 to 20% of interstitial fluid. And that's your lymphatic fluids. That's your immune system. Your main immunity is not blood. Your main immunity is lymphatic. That's your sewer system. And this cell in your body, that's the idiocy. If you want to look at an animal, you don't go to the ass and lick up the tail and say, oh, that's what the animal looks like. You get back and look at the whole picture of the animal. But they lift up the tail and try to figure out what cancer is by looking at the tail. And you have to realize that they're using that word to generate fear. Because all it is your own lymphatic system, agglomerated. Your sewer system is backed up and it's chewing on your cells. That's how you get an atypical cell. And any cell in your body can become a cancer cell. It's just an atypical cell sent on down that road. What's doing it? And you will find that all that's wrapped around tumors. What's tumor made of? That's your lymph fluids. And that's why we brought out this whole thing about filtration of the kidneys and seeing that sediment in the bottom. That's what tumors are made from. That's what pain and suffering is made from. These are all metabolitic acids that are 3 pH coming out of your body. And most people are not filtering. Here's an example. All your listeners go pee in a jar, first pee of the morning, second pee of the morning, third pee of the morning. Pee in a jar and look at it. If it's clear, you're in trouble. Ask yourself, where's the waste, the byproducts from the cells from the top of your head to your little pinky toe? Where are they going?
So
medically, they think they dump it back into the inferior vena cava, but those that are taking our school classes and our A&P courses are learning that's just not possible. And no one dumps acids in. If you're a chemist, I'm a chemist, so you don't dump acids back into the blood. You never do that. Matter of fact, when you look at reabsorption at the capillary level, these acids are not well reabsorbed, especially proteins. And so when you look at how the body really works, you realize, no, you have a channel for waste to be removed out of the body, like a car exhaust, like your bathroom. No one ever, I've never built a home for somebody without bathrooms in it. Never did it. Because you have to eat and eliminate. Consumption and elimination are two factors of the Homo sapien physical form, and you got to get used to it. Man just doesn't know what consumption is, and he really doesn't know about elimination. And medical doctors, they're chasing rainbows of diseases. Remember the Rockefeller-Fletcher report? So they're chasing rainbows of diseases and germ theories. They don't know what causes nothing. They're looking at, it's like thought. If you're always chasing your thoughts, you'll never know what truth is because your attention is tracked by your thoughts. When you free your mind from thinking, that's when you see everything. And the same thing applies to your health. Medical doctors are so far off channel, these guys should be taking their license away. Medical is only surgeries and emergency rooms. And there's a lot they can learn in the emergency rooms. But surgeons, that's who medical is. They're not health people. They don't know about health. They don't know the magnetics. They don't know the chemistry. They don't know anything like that. And then this whole concept of cancer, what a moneymaker. All right, so who started the American Cancer Society? John Rockefeller Jr. It's all tied up. Follow the money. Follow the money. And medical, you have two sides. Medical represents the negative side of life, naturopathy, the positive side of life. There's nothing happy about medical unless you have to have surgery, then yes. But if you're going to treat a disease, you're going to find yourself going down a rabbit hole that you're going to have a hard time getting out of.
What do you think about? So you mentioned in an emergency room and surgeries, but what about, for example, situations of infections and things like that? You're mentioning the germ theory. Do you not believe in things like bacterial infections?
Hell no, not at all.
Parasites, viruses, things.
All right, so nature is full of little creatures that consume others. This is one thing eats another, eats another, eats another. If you look at this planet, really, one thing simply eats another, eats another, eats another, doesn't it?
What?
So it's funny when you look at that. But bacterium, here's a good example with the bacterium. Bacterium are more for acids. They're just coming in to clean you. And your bacteria in your gut will be the type of bacteria that's needed for the food you're eating. So if you're eating dead animal meat and stuff like this, welcome Ebola and H. pylori and things like this. If you're a fruitarian, you're not going to have any of these type of bacteriums in the body. You're not battling nature. God didn't make nature for you to battle with. It made it so you can work in harmony with. Matter of fact, in nature, a lot of the animals have worms in them. They work in harmony in the human body or in their bodies. But yeah.
Aren't you
Perfection is all crazy.
aren't aren't two of those things are contradicting because you're saying that everything's eating each other and at the same time everything's in
Yeah,
harmony. So it's like
yeah,
the things
hey,
are trying to.
yeah. Well, we're
Oh,
eating fruit. Everything has an awareness to it. You could get into which one is it? Hinduism or something. You get into you don't even want to step on a grass
right.
because grass
Jane.
has awareness. I've been so real quietly. I have been back to the plant kingdom, and I'm telling you, there's life. Nothing is static and nothing is unaware. When you're talking about the Godhead and everything coming out of the one, there's nothing that has no awareness to it. That's even gemstones, rocks, everything has a certain awareness to it. Might be limited as opposed to the Homo sapien awareness, but then there's a lot more greater awarenesses beyond the human awareness out there. And we're about to visit some.
So let's just to kind of start to wrap up. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and you've been very generous already.
I'm having fun with you.
Okay, great. Well, you at some point, there's so many questions, right? But at some point, you obviously got online on YouTube, and I'm imagining you kind of blew up in a whole different way from that. So, how did that whole experience happen, and how's that affected your life?
Yeah. YouTube has sanctioned me a million times. I don't know. But we have our own platform. That's drmorris.tv. But if you go to drmorris.health, there's our whole plat. We have the school. We have every place you can go to find help and find Facebooks and stuff like that. But drmorris.tv, that's where all our videos. If you go there, look up tissue regeneration and tell me you're not impressed with a toe that I rebuilt just on fruit. Take a look at that toe and you tell me what you think. Where's the protein? How did I take a toe they wanted to cut off? And how did I take nothing but skin hanging and rebuild it into a toe? How did I do that just on fruit? Oh my God, that doesn't sound possible. And you know that.
So what is it you're doing now? What are you focused on? What are you what would you like to let people know about more?
All right, so I've got 5 V books coming. They're video books. And then they will be published into regular books. But I like the video books because we can talk to you deeper into into this book. I've got one called the Fruit and Berries, the Natural Food of Man. The evidence that man is a frugivore. This is it's going to be a textbook type book, but it'll be fun to read because we're going to expose the guts, everything that proves what man biologically should be eating. All right. Then the second book we've got coming out a few weeks after that one is the Great Lymphatic System. And this is a series called The Illusion Called Diseases. I started this series 20 years ago, and it's called The Illusion Called Diseases. And in that, we show you when you have a symptom, what causes it. And chemistry always creates every symptom. Chemistry controls everything, and there's only 2 sides to it. How hard is that? And so this is an in-depth look at your lymphatic system. And if you don't know what your lymphatic system is, you better read this. And of course, all on our videos, because your lymphatic system is why people die. It's not your blood, it's your lymphatic system. That's your sewer system. That's your main immune system. And that's where all the problems come from. Your kidneys are the main controllers. Your right kidney controls the right side of your body lymphatically, your left, the left side lymphatically. So when your right kidney's down, you can start having all kinds of problems on one side and nothing on this side. We're bilateral beings. You check blood pressures, both sides, blood sugars, both sides, believe it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Something came into my mind I wanted to mention. I believe that you were a teacher of Dan McDonald. Do you aware
I
of
like
him?
Danny. I like Dan. You ever interviewed Dan McDonald? He came to me years ago and wanted to start promoting my videos. I had a video out of the school, and he wanted to promote it because he knew right away we were on point. So, but that never materialized. And then he started his thing. Dan actually is the one that started me doing YouTube.
Right.
I said, Dan, I'm not going to do YouTube. I'm an old guy. I wasn't old then, though. I was in my 50s, I think. But it's like, no, I'm not going to do YouTube. What am I doing YouTube for? I don't do YouTube. He said, no, you want to do YouTube. I go, well, maybe, but he's the one. Oh, Dan.
Amazing, amazing. Do you
Yeah.
stay in touch with him?
You know, he had got a hold of me here about a year ago or so, wanting to talk to me about these videos again. But I've had the hurricane coming. I've had so many problems,
Sure.
with this and trying to get reestablished and everything. It's just I haven't had time to get back with so many people. But
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Morse. That was a fascinating journey of your life. I'd love to interview you again another time. I'm sure there's a million
anytime,
other
man.
things to talk about. Um, I,
Anytime, a lot of fun.
you've, I just wanted to credit you with having inspired so many people that I've met to get on this path and to change their life and to start eating fruit. And I applaud you for that positive message about fruit that you always put out there. When a lot of people, even in the raw food world, don't talk positively about fruit, as you know. Um,
But after 50 years of working with people, I can tell you that I am grounded totally in what I know to be true. And I've had so many patients. Dr. Jensen and I were trying to figure out who had the most patients because he's had a lot of, or had. But uh, you learn, and you learn the reality. You learn the truth. When you take someone from Hellville and bring them into Wellville, you learn after a while. You learn what you can do, what the body can do, how to navigate. I've always said detoxification is an art because of where man is in his physical problems. And so, it's just a fun journey
yeah,
because it's all about you and your happiness and how you feel good and your awareness and everything, that you want to experience in life. Some souls are here, they're fairly new, they just want to experience, driving a car, riding on a boat, or flying an airplane. And there's others like yourself that would love to travel throughout the universes.
for sure. For the last few minutes, before we kind of get done, this whole thing about the frugivore book, human is a frugivore, and that's such a strong message that needs to get out there. What if you look into stuff now, what they'll say is people were using fire a million years ago, they were using cooking a million years ago, or 100,000 or 400,000. They make it longer and longer back. Um, it's so amazing to me that they don't see the fruit connection. But what's your evidence on all this, or what was this?
Well,
Were you
you've got that's because you have the medical and a lot of the research people just clouding. Look at Harvard got caught changing their studies, and so did Stanford got caught changing their studies. So, well, I've got anthropology back. I got a great study done by the top university. You'll see it coming out, and this Dr. Walker and a team of anthropologists went back 10 million years ago, got teeth, gut tissue, and all of this. And their whole thing was that man is a frugivore. And they also went so far as to cover this concept that, yes, man was a frugivore, but then he biologically changed to adapt to an omnivorish diet. And they say hogwash. That is not true. And I agree with them 100%. So, it's looking at that. And then we have another study that shows that the brain size, the anthropologists considered the reason the Homo sapien has such a large brain is because he's a fruit eater. So there's two big studies out with that. But you know what? We have clinical studies. You can say what you want, think what you want, but how about in real time? So you want to challenge me? You challenge me in real time. I've challenged every medical doctor that comes to me and gripes at me. I say, I'll tell you what, I'll take 100 of your patients and I will put them on my programs and let's watch them and let's see what 100 of your patients are doing. And I've never had any takers out there. So anybody that wants to show the difference between fruitarian healing and a Hippocrates, just having vegetable juices and stuff healing. If you want to see the differences, I'd love to do it in front of a camera.
Have you had any dealings with Hippocrates?
Oh, horrible place.
Really?
I do Ann Wigmore personally, though. But I don't care for the gentleman running it. A little strange fella, got to be real careful there. But vegetable juice, we did vegetable juices 40 years ago. You don't go in. So here's an example. You have all this heavy, let's say, mineral deposits on your shower door. Are you going to go get some carrot juice to clean it off, or are you going to go get some lemon juice to clean it off?
Right.
See, and that's the point.
Right.
When I fasted weeks and weeks and weeks on carrot juice, nothing. Dr. Jensen woke up with extreme prostate cancer, went on a 3-month carrot juice fast, and ended up going nowhere with it. Got down to 80 pounds. I got it on a film here. The problem, if he had done that with grapes, he could have been alive today.
Right. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned the Walker thing about the teeth and everything, and that's interesting. Alan Walker, he was I think he was Welsh or English, and certainly he wasn't a fruitarian, but he heard the theories people would say about humans eating cooked food, humans eating meat and things like that to grow the brain, and he said there's no, I think he basically said there's not evidence for that. This doesn't seem right, and he wasn't a fruitarian saying that, you know.
Yeah. But the thing is man's saying, I'm suffering. I've got tumors in me. I've got pain. My joints are falling apart and all this, but it's not related to any chemistry I'm playing with. How stupid is that? Right. I mean, and that's medical. Medical is trapped in the world of diseases set up by the Rockefellers. And so now you're trapped in this ideology of diseases, and you think nothing you eat is a problem for you. That's why you can have a barbecued beef sandwich with French fries post MI or heart attack in ICU, which happened on me, and it killed the guy. You got to realize all this is vibrational and power and energy on your nervous system, on your blood, and on the system. And you just can't eat certain foods, especially when you're in pain and suffering, the foods that brought you there. But man doesn't want to look at his foods that he's eating, his makeups and all that they're using, and all the chemistry they're drinking. Sure, this neon colored light drink is going to be good. It lights up like a Christmas tree. It should be good. I mean, this is the kind of stuff our kids are drinking and eating. You got thiss's companies coming out with Pedisure and Ensure that's 30 grams of protein and 1 of sugar. Mother's milk's the opposite. So you just have insanity out there.
So, Dr. Morse, can you finish off maybe with a last comment, something you want to share? What would you like to share with the audience just to finish off?
Well, I'll tell you one big comment. I love you all. Don't be afraid to move your life, your physical life, into a better food choice. In other words, if you have to have salads and stuff, fine. Well, I'm not advocating a fruitarian lifestyle, but start moving into a raw food lifestyle. In other words, why are you cooking your foods in the first place? Now, not saying that you won't have some cooked vegetables sometime. I do for balance, but excuse me, if you've never done any of this, you want to take off and start doing fruit for breakfast, a big salad for lunch, and fruit at night. Get on some herbs to get your kidneys filtered. One of the last things I'll say is make sure that you start getting filtration of your kidneys, or you're in serious trouble. And we're here for you. I love you all. Have fun on our sites and just have fun in life. You know, don't let things get to you. We're in hard times right now, and power and control, the world order, all these things like that are trying to take your life away from you. Get smart, get strong, get healthy, and we can all help you do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Morse.
Thank you, my friend.
So everyone, feel free to check out Dr. Robert Morse, everything he's doing. And we'd love to continue to have you listen to us on the Love Fruit podcast. Feel free to subscribe, to share with others, to let other people know. We have a fruit festival here in the UK, fruitfest.co.uk. You can learn more about that, fruitfest.co.uk. We have our own educational resources. We're starting up a membership group soon for people that want to learn more about any of these things. You can go to fruitfest.co.uk or send a message to info@fruitfest.co.uk, and you can get in touch with us and learn more. Thank you very much, Dr. Robert Morse.
Yeah, thank you. I'm humbled. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we'll see you in another episode of the Love Fruit podcast.
All righty. Love you, man. Bye-bye.